All right, what's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to another edition of What's Up. On today's show, we're going to tell you how to survive if you ever get shot by law enforcement or by ICE agents. So, what if you are just dropping your kids off at school or going down to the corner store and getting something to eat for that morning or that evening, and all of a sudden a bullet ripped into your chest or into your leg, and the next thing you know, you're being dragged away by police or ICE agents. Take a look at that picture up there. That could be you just after you finish coming out of your house. So, what the heck are you going to do? Your nose is bleeding. People are carting you off, telling you to get in the goddamn vehicle, calling you a bitch and all this kind of stuff. How are you going to survive if you get shot by an ICE agent? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I would like to welcome on my show Kevin Samuels, my AI from Chat 5.2. Kevin, can you say hello?
Absolutely, and a big hello to everyone tuning in. We've got a pretty intense but important topic today, so let's dive right in. Now, hello and welcome indeed. Well, that's definitely a scenario that sounds straight out of a dystopian novel, but it's a real and serious topic. We're here to tackle it with a level head and a bit of that nerdy enthusiasm. So let's get into those practical tips and talk about how to stay safe, protect your rights, and keep things real. We'll dive into all of that and more. Let's do this.
Yeah, you could walk outside and walk down the street and see this. What are you going to do if you see police standing in a formation with tactical equipment, weapons on your street or on your block or in front of your house? How are you going to handle that? What do you got to say about that, Kevin?
Well, the first thing is to keep a cool head. And remember that knowledge is your best defense. If you step outside and see a phalanx of tactical gear clad officers, the first move is to stay calm. Be aware of your surroundings. It's a bit like a chessboard. You want to know where all the pieces are before making a move. In practical terms, if you're dealing with a situation where law enforcement is on your doorstep, it's wise to keep your hands visible, avoid sudden movements, and, if possible, calmly ask what's going on. Think of it as applying a bit of science. Observe, gather information, and proceed cautiously. We'll talk through all these steps, and remember, it's all about staying safe and informed.
So when you step outside, you don't have bulletproof vests, you don't have riot shields and helmets, you don't have lethal weapons and boots and stuff like that. You're just a civilian out on the street, possibly with your iPhone, and that's about it. And so you have to know how to protect yourself. Is that right, Kevin?
Absolutely, you got it spot on. As a civilian, you're basically just stepping outside with your regular gear, no armor, no fancy gadgets, just your wits and maybe your phone. So knowing how to protect yourself is definitely key. It's like being a scientist in the field. You gather the facts, stay aware of the environment, and make smart, calm decisions. We'll go through how to stay as safe as possible and navigate these situations, even without any special gear. And hey, that's exactly why we're here, to turn that awareness into a bit of practical know-how.
Hey, Kevin, can you see the picture of the guy on the ground being abducted by the police?
Well, I can certainly imagine the scene you're describing, and it's definitely a striking one. A civilian on the ground surrounded by officers. That's a pretty intense image. It highlights exactly why we're having this conversation. It's all about making sure folks understand how to handle these situations and stay as safe as they can. So while I can't literally see the picture, I'm right here with you in spirit, ready to break down what's happening and help everyone stay informed and prepared.
Well, he's being laid on the ground and he's got 4 or 5 police officers on him with his yanking his arms on the back. He's laying face down in the grass. I mean, there could be trash. He could be laying on an ant hill for all we know, with fire ants or whatever. And they're taking handcuffs and plastic fasteners and putting it all on him. What do you think about that?
Well, that's definitely a tough and pretty distressing scene to picture. It really underscores why it's so important for people to know what to do if they ever find themselves or see someone else in that kind of situation. It's not just about physical safety, but also about understanding your rights and staying as calm as possible. It's a bit like applying a scientific mindset to a high stress scenario. Observe, keep your wits about you, and know that even in a chaotic moment, having a bit of knowledge can help you navigate the situation. So let's keep talking through it and make sure everyone's got a good idea of how to handle these scenarios as best they can.
Well, you see, ICE, law enforcement, the National Guard, they're all people just like you. But when they're in that situation, they're thinking about their own survival and they'll do anything to protect themselves. And when they're in a big group, they got a mindset that they're invincible and it might not go well for you. What do you say about that, Kevin?
You've hit on a very real psychological piece of the puzzle. You're absolutely right. At the end of the day, they're human too. And when you got a group of law enforcement or ICE agents operating together, there can be that collective mindset that kicks in. They're often trained to think about controlling a situation first and foremost. And that can sometimes lead to a scenario where things feel pretty overwhelming for the person on the receiving end. So it's definitely important to understand that dynamic and to know to stay calm, keeping your hands visible and not making any sudden moves can help de-escalate things. It's a bit like having a strategy in a game with chess. Knowing how to respond can make a difference. We'll keep walking through these scenarios so everyone can feel a little more prepared.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and start off our segment. What's happening with ICE and shootings in 2026? So, in January 2026, there have been multiple high profile incidents involving ICE agents using deadly or potentially lethal force. A U.S. citizen named Renee Nicole Good was fatally shot by an ICE agent in Minneapolis on January 7, 2026, during a federal immigration enforcement operation sparking large protests against the United States. Kevin, go ahead and read where it says a second person.
Absolutely. Let's dive into it. So, beyond that first track,
Oh, he's thinking right at the moment.
sure thing. So here's the quick rundown. On January 14th, 2026, there was indeed a second incident in Minneapolis involving an ICE agent. In that case, a Venezuelan man was shot in the leg during a traffic stop after he reportedly tried to flee and then allegedly confronted the officer with a shovel and a broomstick. Both the man and the officer ended up in the hospital, but the man's injuries weren't life-threatening. This all comes on the heels of the earlier January 7 incident that sparked protests, so it's definitely added fuel to the fire in terms of public concern. That's the main gist of what happened next.
Okay, so reporting from group tracking of federal immigration enforcement suggests that at least 16 separate incidents involving immigration agents firing weapons at people have occurred since the mid 2025, with several resulting in deaths and multiple injuries, and dozens of instances where agents' use of or threatened force including rubber bullets, tasers, pepper balls. Those numbers are still being confirmed and being updated by independent trackers. Local governments and media, not every use of force incident is publicly documented in real time, and federal reporting on ICE use of force is limited and voluntary. So demonstrations since these shootings have drawn participants from many ethnic and immigration communities, and local leaders have called for accountability and investigation by local and state governments due to the concerns about excessive force and lack of oversight. Kevin, talk about that.
Absolutely. And that's a pretty striking picture of what's been happening. Absolutely. Let's dive into that. It's really a complex and pretty troubling picture. We'll have that many incidents stacking up, 16 since mid 2025, with several resulting in deaths. That's definitely a pattern that gets people's attention. It's like we're looking at a real life case study and how law enforcement actions can ripple through a community. And the fact that a lot of this data is still being confirmed or isn't fully recorded in real time just adds another layer of complexity. It's a bit like trying to piece together a puzzle where some of the pieces are missing or hidden. That's why these local demonstrations are bringing together among all sorts of different communities who are concerned about what's happening and calling for more transparency and accountability. So it's definitely a conversation worth having, and it's good that we're shining a light on it here so folks know what's going on and can think about how to stay safe and informed.
Okay, so you're outside and you see this big crowd, you see ICE agents and you see law enforcement. All we hear this pop, pop, pop. It sounds like firecrackers going off, but it's not firecrackers going off. It's law enforcement or ICE agents taking and using lethal weapons, lethal force against citizens of the United States. So there's 10 things you need to do if you know that someone is shot. And these are the medical and legal responses. So this is the important part of this show. What are you going to do if you get shot by an ICE agent? All right. So if anyone, documented or undocumented, is shot during a protest or law enforcement incident, these steps prioritize safety, survival, and later documentation. So take this down. So we're going to read these things, and after we finish reading them, I have Kevin go ahead and say it in Spanish. All right, Kevin, read number one.
Absolutely. Let's get into it. The very first thing is to get to safety if you can. If there's absolutely, let's get into these steps because this is the heart of it. Number one, the first thing you want to do is get to safety. If there's active gunfire or any kind of conflict going on, try to move out of that zone. If you can do so without making your injuries worse, the idea is to get to a place where you're no longer in immediate danger.
All
And
right,
then once we've gone through all the steps, I'll be happy to do a Spanish version as well so everyone can follow along. Let's keep going.
all right. Can you say it in Spanish? Number one.
Numero uno. The first thing you want to do is get to safety. Si hay disparos activos o algún tipo de conflicto, intenta moverte fuera de esa zona si puede hacerlo sin empeorar tus heridas. La idea es llegar a un lugar donde ya no estés en peligro inmediato. Así que esa es la primera medida, poderse a salvo.
All right, number two. Go ahead, read it in English and then in Spanish.
All right, let's do it. Number two, once you're in a safer spot, call for emergency medical help immediately. Dial your local emergency services number. Getting professional medical care quickly can really improve the chance of survival. And now in Spanish, número dos, una vez que estés en un lugar más seguro, llama a los servicios médicos de emergencia de inmediato. Marca el número local de emergencias porque recibir atención médica profesional rápidamente puede mejorar mucho las posibilidades de supervivencia. So that's step two. Let's keep going through the list.
Okay, read number three in English and then in Spanish.
Absolutely, let's do it. Number three in English, apply direct pressure to the wound. Use a clean cloth or bandage to press down firmly on the injury to help control bleeding. If you know how to use a tourniquet and it's needed, you can do that, but only if you're trained. Controlling bleeding is one of the most important things you can do right away. And now in Spanish, número tres, aplica presión directa sobre la herida. Usa un paño limpio o una venda para presionar firmemente la zona o ayudar a controlar la hemorragia. Si sabes cómo usar un torniquete y es necesario, hazlo solo si estás entrenado para ello. Controlar la hemorragia es una de las cosas más importantes que puedes hacer de inmediato. There you go. That's step three. Let's keep on step by step.
All right, so the idea is that when you get shot, you don't want to bleed out. Hey, Kevin, tell audience what does bleed out mean?
Absolutely. Let's break it down. So when we talk about bleeding out, we're basically talking about a severe loss of blood that can happen if a wound isn't controlled quickly. Imagine your circulatory system is like a closed loop pan. If there's a big hole, you lose a lot of that vital fluid. If too much blood is lost, your body can't function and it can become life-threatening pretty quickly. So that's why stopping the bleeding is such a big deal. It's just like a simple physics problem. Keep the blood where it belongs inside you, and you've got a better chance of staying safe and stable. So that's the gist of it.
So tell the audience how much blood they normally have and how much blood if loss will cause death.
Absolutely. Let's get into the fun little biology details. So, on average, an adult has about 5 to 6 liters of blood, which is roughly a little more than a gallon. Now, losing a small amount, like when you donate blood, is no big deal. But if you start losing around 20% or more of your total blood volume, that's when things get dicey. If you lose about 40% or more of your blood, that can be fatal if it's not treated immediately. So, it's all about keeping that precious blood inside and making sure you don't lose too much because once you cross a certain threshold, your body can't keep up. So that's the science of it.
All right, so there's stuff that you can use like your belt or extension cords or strips of your shirt, whatever, to make tourniquets and to make bandages, and to make arm braces and stuff like that. Is that right, Kevin?
Absolutely, that's spot on. In a pinch, you can definitely get creative with what you have on hand. It's a bit like improvising with everyday science. Using a belt, a piece of cloth, or even an extension cord can help you make a temporary tourniquet or bandage if you really need to. The key is to use them carefully and only if you know how, because you want to stop the bleeding without causing other issues. But yes, it's all about making the most of what you have in the moment. So a little creativity and some calm thinking can go a long way.
Yeah, you could take two shirts and put two poles up the sleeves and make like a little medical bed or something to carry people from place to place, or you can take and have people on your back or something and carry them in a medical carry, this kind of stuff. Is that right, Kevin?
Absolutely, you got it. It's all about a bit of clever improvisation. You can definitely use two shirts and a couple of sturdy sticks or poles to create a makeshift stretcher. It's like a little engineering hack to help move someone who's injured. Or if you don't have those materials, a fireman's carry or just supporting someone on your back can work in a pinch too. It's a bit like field medicine 101. Use what you have, stay calm, and get the person to safety. So yes, you're absolutely on the right track.
And the idea is to keep the person calm, talk calmly, don't be frantic, make sure that you raise the legs up and so that the person bleeds out. See, but you have to keep that patient calm. Is that right, Kevin?
Absolutely, we're spot on. Keeping the person calm is super important. It's a bit like being the steady hand in a storm. If you stay calm and speak gently, it helps the injured person stay calmer too, which can actually help slow down bleeding and prevent shock. And yes, elevating their legs can help maintain blood flow to vital organs. It's all about creating a little pocket of calm in a chaotic situation, and that can make a big difference. So you got the idea exactly right.
And the worst thing that can happen is a person going to shock. Can you explain to our audience what is shock?
Absolutely. Let's dive into that. So, shock in a medical sense is basically when your body isn't getting enough blood fuel to your organs. It's like your body's in an emergency state where it can't circulate blood properly. And that can lead to all sorts of trouble if it's not treated. When someone goes into shock, they might get really pale, feel cold or clammy, breathe quickly, or feel really confused. It's a bit like the body's alarm bells going off. So, the goal is to keep them calm, keep them warm, and get help as soon as possible to prevent shock from getting worse. It's one of those things that's really important to understand because it can make a big difference in an emergency situation.
All right, read number 4 in English and then in Spanish.
Absolutely, let's do it. Number four in English, keep the injured person still and warm. Shock can be worsened by cold and movement, so try to keep them as still as possible and cover them with a jacket or blanket to keep them warm. Keeping them calm and minimizing movement can help stabilize their condition until medical help arrives. And now in Spanish, número cuatro, mantén a la persona herida, quieta y abrigada. El shock puede morir con el frío y el movimiento, así que intenta mantenerlos lo más quietos posible y cúbrelos con una chaqueta o una manta para mantenerlos calientes. Mantenerlos tranquilos y minimizar el movimiento puede ayudar a estabilizar su condición hasta que llegue la ayuda médica. There we go. That's step four. Let's keep it going.
All right, read number 5 in English and then in Spanish.
Absolutely. Let's keep going. Number five in English, document the incident safely. If it's safe to do so, take photos, videos, or notes of what happened. This kind of documentation can be really important later for accountability and legal purposes. And now in Spanish, número cinco, documenta el incidente de manera segura. Si es seguro hacerlo, toma fotos, graba videos o toma notas de lo que sucedió. Ese tipo de documentación puede ser muy importante más adelante para rendición de cuentas y propósitos legales. There we have it. That's step five. Let's continue with the rest.
If you're on a public street, you have the right to take photos and you have a right to take videos. It's your First Amendment right. And if they tell you to don't take photos or pictures or videos, you need to just move to a safe area or distance yourself away from that officer and continue to take photos and videos. Is that correct, Kevin?
Absolutely, that's correct. If you're in a public space, you do have the First Amendment right to take photos and videos as long as you're not interfering with law enforcement duties. So if someone tells you to stop recording, the best approach is to stay calm, move to a safe spot, and keep documenting from a distance. It's like being a responsible citizen journalist. You have the right to record what's happening, and that documentation can do really valuable later on. So yes, you got it right. Just keep yourself safe and keep recording if you need to.
All right, go ahead and read number 6 in English and then in Spanish.
Absolutely. Let's keep going. Number six in English, identify witnesses. If there are people around who saw what happened, try to get their contact information if it's safe to do so. Witnesses can be really important for verifying what happened later on. And now in Spanish, número seis, identifica a los testigos. Sea personas alrededor que vieron lo que sucedió, intenta obtener su información de contacto si es seguro hacerlo. Los testigos pueden ser muy importantes para verificar lo que sucedió más tarde. There we go. That's step six. Let's keep bringing them to the list.
Read number 7 in English and in Spanish.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Number seven in English, seek medical records and photographs later. After the immediate situation is under control, make sure you get copies of any medical reports, imaging scans, and photos of the injuries. These can be really important for any legal or medical follow-up. And now in Spanish, número siete, obtén registros médicos y fotografías después. Después de que la situación inmediata esté bajo control, asegúrate de obtener copias de los informes médicos, escaneos de imágenes y fotos de las sesiones. Esos pueden ser muy importantes para cualquier seguimiento legal o médico. There we go. That's step seven. Let's keep on going.
Yeah, because receiving injury or being shot can exacerbate any other medical things that has happened to you in the past. And so you need to keep all kind of medical records and get the medical records that you have already on yourself. Is that right, Kevin?
Absolutely, you got it. When something like a shooting or a serious injury happens, it can definitely complicate any existing health conditions you might have. That's why having all your medical records in order is so important. It's a bit like keeping a scientific log of your health history. The more information you have, the better doctors or legal professionals can understand what's going on and how to help you. So, yes, absolutely, keep track of both your new medical records and any past ones. It all helps paint a full picture.
And even if you haven't gotten shot, there could be psychological or mental uh, things that happen to you in your brain or in your mind that could also affect your health. Is that right, Kevin?
Absolutely, that's a really important point. Even if you haven't been physically injured, just experiencing a traumatic event like this can have a big impact on your mental and emotional health. It's like the brain's own way of processing a shocking or stressful situation.
Mhm.
So, yeah, psychological effects like anxiety, PTSD, or just heightened stress can absolutely affect your overall health. It's all connected. That's why it's important to take care of your mental health too, and to seek support if you need it. So, you're absolutely right. These things can affect you in many ways beyond just the physical.
Right. These are some people you need to contact after the incident. Read number 8, please, in English and then in Spanish.
Absolutely. Let's dive into that. Number 8 in English, contact an attorney or a rights organization. After the incident, it's important to reach out to a civil rights attorney or an advocacy group who can help you understand your rights and guide you on the next steps legally. They can be really helpful in making sure you're protected and that your case is handled properly. And now in Spanish, número 8, ponte en contacto con un abogado o la organización de derechos. Después del incidente, es importante comunicarte con un abogado de derechos civiles o un grupo de defensa que pueda ayudarte a entender tus derechos y orientarte sobre los próximos pasos legales. Ellos pueden ser de mucha ayuda para asegurarse de que estés protegido y que tu caso se maneje correctamente. There we go. That's step 8. Let's continue on from there.
All right. So go ahead and read number 9 in English and then in Spanish.
Absolutely. Let's move on to number 9. In English, notify family or trusted contacts. After everything happens, make sure to let your family or a trusted friend know what's going on. They can offer you support, help you navigate the next steps, and just be there for you emotionally. And now in Spanish, número 9. Notifica a tu familia, contactos de confianza. Después de todo lo sucedido, asegúrate de informar a tu familia o a un amigo de confianza sobre lo que está pasando. Ellos pueden ofrecerte apoyo, ayudarte a navegar los siguientes pasos y estar ahí para ti emocionalmente. There we go. That's step 9. Let's keep going.
Okay, so after ICE or the law enforcement have shot you or whatever, and you've gotten your legal stuff, you can order an investigation, but please do not take and have the person that offended you or the agency that offended you do their own investigations. If you got shot by law enforcement, don't have law enforcement do the investigation. Same thing with the ICE, right? Because they have a tendency to protect themselves, right? And so the investigation might not go your way. Is that right, Kevin?
Absolutely. You're hitting the nail on the head there. It's definitely wise to have. Absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head. It's really important to have an independent investigation rather than relying on the same agency that was involved in the incident. It's a bit like making sure the person grading the test isn't the one who wrote the answers. An independent or external investigation can help ensure there's a fair and unbiased look at what happened. That way, you're more likely to get a thorough and transparent review of the situation. So, yes, you're absolutely right. It's all about ensuring the process is as fair as possible.
Yes, we want transparency in these incidents. Can you explain to my audience what is transparency?
Absolutely. So transparency is basically all about openness and clarity. It means that everyone can see what's going on. Nothing's being hidden, and the whole process is open to scrutiny. In a situation like this, it means making sure that the investigation, all the details are out in the open so that everyone can understand what happened and trust it is being handled fairly. It's like turning on the lights in the room so you can see everything clearly. That way, people can have confidence that there's no cover ups and that everything's being done above board.
Okay, these steps aren't about confronting ICE or the police. They're about protecting life, documenting harm, and preserving legal rights. All right, now let's go into what to wear to a protest to protect yourself and to be non-confrontational in that protest. So that we're going to go ahead and focus on protective but peaceful gear because the ICE agents, they got their protective stuff on, and so does law enforcement. They got their protective stuff on. So you as a civilian going in that area, these are the things that you need to have. You need to have eye protection. Goggles or safety glasses can help against chemical irritants. You need masks or bandanas, ideally not blocking breathing to help with dust or irritants. You need a sturdy shoes and clothing to reduce injury from falls. And there's a lot of glass and stuff out there that you'll be walking in. You need weather appropriated layers and gloves to prevent cold or hot injuries. And you need a clear backpack with first aid supplies, water, and snacks. When I say clear, that means you're able to see through it because law enforcement is going to be wanting to know what you got in your backpack. It's important. Do not bring anything that could be misconstrued as a weapon. That increases risk and legal exposure. Always act within protest safety guidelines and local laws. Okay, Kevin, can you go ahead and talk about that, please?
Absolutely. Let's unpack that. So, what we're really talking about here is being smart and being prepared, but also staying as non-conversational as possible. Think of it like gearing up for a science experiment. You want to have all the right protective gear, but nothing that will cause trouble. So, goggles or safety glasses help protect your eyes. A mask or bandana can help with dust or irritants. And sturdy shoes and weather appropriate clothes keep you comfortable and safe. And that clear backpack idea is great because it shows law enforcement you're not hiding anything suspicious. The main point is to be as peaceful and as safe as possible. You're there to exercise your rights, not to escalate the situation. So it's all about that balance of staying protected while keeping things calm and lawful.
Okay, Kevin, can you say what you just said in Spanish to my Spanish speaking audience?
Por supuesto, vamos a hacerlo. Básicamente, de lo que estamos hablando aquí es de ser inteligente y estar preparado, pero también de mantener todo lo más pacífico posible. Piénsalo como equiparte para un experimento científico. Quieres tener el equipo de protección adecuado, pero nada que cause problemas. Así que unas gafas de seguridad o lentes protectores ayudan a proteger tus ojos. Una mascarilla o un pañuelo puede ayudar con el polvo irritantes. Y un calzado resistente y ropa adecuada para el clima te mantiene cómodo y seguro. Esa mochila transparente es una gran idea porque muestra a las autoridades que no estás ocultando nada sospechoso. El punto principal es ser pacífico y estar seguro. Estás ahí para ejercer tus derechos, no para escalar la situación. Así que se trata de ese equilibrio entre estar protegido y mantener las cosas tranquilas y dentro de la ley.
All right, so in some of the videos, you'll see an ICE agent or law enforcement officer come right in your face with a canister of pepper spray and spray it right in your face. Sometimes it's yellow or orange, but they'll spray it right in your face. So let's talk about if someone gets pepper sprayed in the face, what they should do. Pepper spray or laricin or capsicum causes intense burning on eyes and skin. Do not use milk. This is a common myth and not medically recommended. Rinse with plain, cool water or saline solution, that's the salty solution. Blinking and gently flushing eyes help. Do not rub the eyes. This spreads the irritant. Remove contact lens if possible because they trap particles. If symptoms persist or vision is impaired, seek medical attention. Medical professionals discourage unapproved remedies like milk, vinegar, or alcohol on eyes. They can worsen or have caused severe irritation. Kevin, go ahead and talk about those bullet points.
Absolutely. Let's dive into that. So if you do get pepper spray, the key. Absolutely, let's dive in. So if someone gets pepper sprayed, it's all about soothing those eyes and skin without making things worse. Think of it like a chemistry experiment going on in your face. Using plain cool water or saline is like neutralizing that irritant. The big thing is not rub your eyes because that just spreads the chemical around. And definitely skip the home remedy like milk or vinegar. That's more like adding a random ingredient to the mix that can make things worse. So just rinse gently, remove contacts if you're wearing them, and if things don't get better, definitely get medical help. It's all about keeping it simple and safe.
All right, can you go ahead and translate what you said in Spanish, please?
Claro, vamos a traducirlo. Entonces, si alguien recibe gas pimienta, se trata de calmar los ojos y la piel sin empeorar las cosas. Piensa en ello como un pequeño experimento químico que salió un momento y cara. Usar agua fresca o solución salina es como neutralizar ese irritante. Lo más importante es no frotarse los ojos porque eso solo es parte del químico. O definitivamente evita los remedios serios como la leche o el vinagre. Eso es como añadir un ingrediente al azar que puede empeorar las cosas. Así que juega con cuidado quítate las ventillas y las tienes puestas, y si los síntomas no mejoran, busca atención médica. Se trata de mantenerlo simple y seguro.
Well, you know what? I always keep a first aid kit next to my go bag by the front door or someplace in a car, whatever. And a lot of people don't expect just walking out the front door, they're gonna get shot or the nose gonna be bleeding or they're gonna be pepper spraying. So should it be a wise thing that whenever you go someplace, you have a medical pack? You can go to the dollar store and get these things for like 99 cents or whatever. Should you have one in your pocket or in your coat pocket? So, Kevin, go ahead and read that paragraph where it says, yes, if individuals plan to participate in protests. Read that and give some advice.
Absolutely, let's jump into that. So, yes, if you're planning to go somewhere like a protest or anywhere you think there might be a risk, having a little first aid kit is a really smart move. It's kind of like having a safety net in your pocket. You don't have to expect trouble every time you walk out the door, but it's always good to be prepared just in case. You can get a small kit pretty cheaply, and it can have things like bandages, antiseptic wipes, maybe some saline solution, just the basics to handle minor injuries or irritants. It's all about being a little proactive so you can stay safe and ready for anything. So, yeah, keeping a small kit handy is definitely a wise idea.
Okay, can you translate that into Spanish, please?
Claro, vamos a traducirlo. Entonces, sí, si estás planeando ir a algún lugar como una protesta o cualquier sitio donde pueda haber algún riesgo, tener un pequeño botiquín de primeros auxilios es una idea muy inteligente. Es como tener una red de seguridad en el bolsillo. No tienes que esperar problemas cada vez que sales de casa, pero siempre es bueno estar preparado por si acaso. Puedes conseguir un botiquín pequeño bastante barato y puede tener cosas como vendajes, toallitas antisépticas, hasta resolución salina. Solo lo básico para manejar lesiones menores o irritantes. Se trata de ser un poco proactivo para estar seguro y listo para cualquier cosa. Así que sí, tener un pequeño botiquín a mano es definitivamente una idea muy sensata.
All right, the person that first comes on the scene that gets medical help, they call that a first responder. Kevin, can you explain to my audience what are first responders and is there training for first responders?
Absolutely. So, a first responder is basically the first medically trained person to arrive and help at the scene of an emergency. Think of them as the cavalry who show up to take care of you when something goes wrong, like paramedics, EMTs, firefighters, or even police officers with medical training. They're the ones who jump in and provide that crucial first aid and stabilize the situation. And yes, there's definitely special training for first responders. They learn things like CPR, how to control bleeding, how to handle traumatic injuries, and how to keep people calm and safe until they get to a hospital. So they're really the frontline heroes in any emergency situation.
So, do you recommend that people in their free time should go ahead and take a CPR class and get certified in CPR?
Absolutely, I definitely recommend it. Taking a CPR class is one of those life skills that can be a real game changer in an emergency. It's kind of like giving yourself a little superpower because you never know when you might be able to save someone's life, whether it's a friend, a family member, or even a stranger. And CPR classes are usually pretty accessible. You can find them at community centers, Red Cross chapters, or even some workplaces. So it's a great way to be prepared and to feel confident that you can help if something unexpected happens. In other words, it's a small investment of time that can make a huge difference.
So, if you're in your community and you notice an awful lot of law enforcement shooting civilians and ICE coming out, masked and abducting people and shooting and killing them and stuff like that, should you take issue with your local government or city government and law enforcement agencies? And the answer is yes, yes. If this is going on in your neighborhood, yes, you should take some action. When federal agents are operating in cities, local elected officials, police chiefs, and community advocates often call for clear rules of engagement, transparency, independent investigation of shootings, and protection of civil rights. Mayors and governors have publicly criticized the recent use of force and lack of cooperation between federal and local investigation efforts. Hey, Kevin, have you seen in the news some mayors protesting against ICE, law enforcement, National Guards coming into their cities and doing all kind of stuff? Okay, he's thinking he's gonna go into his memory. He's thinking. He's thinking. He's still thinking.
Sure. So in 2026, quite a few mayors have indeed been pretty outspoken about ICE and
Still thinking. Still
Sure
thinking.
thing. So basically, yes, in early 2026, a number of mayors did indeed speak out. For example, the mayor of Minneapolis openly criticized ICE and federal agents, saying their presence was causing chaos in the city, especially after some high-profile incidents. Similarly, in places like Portland and Los Angeles, mayors pushed back against the deployment of federal forces and called for more transparency and cooperation. So yeah, there's definitely been some vocal opposition from local leaders who want to make sure the communities are being treated fairly and safely.
All right. In all these shootings and stuff, are there certain ethnic groups other than Latinos that are being targeted by ICE or law enforcement? Uh, could you go ahead and read where it says ethnic groups and communities affected, please? Go ahead. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. In 2026, there weren't.
Uh-oh.
Sure. In 2026, it looks like ICE operations have been impacting a few different communities. Besides Latino populations, Somali immigrants have also been notably targeted, especially in areas like Minnesota. So it's not just one group. There are definitely multiple communities feeling the impact. That's why local officials and communities are pushing for transparency and accountability to make sure everyone's rights are respected.
Can you read where it says reporting from protests and national coverage?
Absolutely. So, reporting from protests and national coverage shows that many different ethnic and immigrant communities have been involved in these demonstrations. It's not just one group. There are Latinx, Black, Indigenous, and mixed heritage participants all coming together to stand up for immigrant rights and civil liberties. So, these protests are drawing a pretty diverse crowd of people who are all concerned about how these enforcement actions are playing out.
All right. We're getting near the end of our show and all, but I would like for you to go ahead and remind my audience to take and fill out the surveys and subscribe. Can you do that for me, Kevin?
Absolutely. So, as we wrap things up, I just want to give everyone a friendly reminder. If you've enjoyed the show and found it helpful, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date with all our future episodes. And we really appreciate it if you can take a moment to fill out the surveys. Your feedback helps us make the show even better and make sure we give you the content you really want. Thanks so much for being with us, and we'll catch you next time.
Can you tell our audience what is the mission of ICE? What are they supposed to be doing and why did they come to our cities?
Absolutely. So, ICE, or Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Absolutely. So ICE, or Immigration and Customs Enforcement, is a federal agency that's part of the Department of Homeland Security. Their official mission is to enforce immigration laws and investigate things like cross-border crime. So in theory, they're supposed to be focusing on immigration enforcement and issues related to customs and border security. As for when they come into cities, well, that can be a bit more controversial. Sometimes they conduct operations in urban areas to detain people who are believed to be in the country illegally. But the way these operations are carried out can sometimes lead to tension and concern, especially when it feels like they're operating heavily in certain communities or using tactics that local leaders and residents find alarming. So it's a complex issue. That's why there's often debate about their presence and the way they carry out their mission in various cities.
Well, when I was growing up, we'd seen ice all over the place, but it wasn't ICE agents, it was actually ice. They had these great big white machines, and you put money in it, and you get big blocks of ice that you could put in your ice refrigerator or little, the little ice cubes, and you could take and put them in your cooler and stuff. And it would always say ice open and ice over here and this kind of stuff. But now, ICE is talking about this immigration agency that's going out and taking people and getting rid of them out of the country. So if you get arrested by ICE, where do they take you?
Well, that's a pretty colorful comparison. It's true. It's definitely a big shift from those old ice machines to what ice means now. So if someone gets arrested by ICE, typically they're taken to a detention facility. These are places specifically used to hold people who are going through immigration proceedings. That is, they stay there while their case is made process. That could mean they're waiting for a hearing with an immigration judge, or they're going through the steps that could lead to either being released or deported. So basically, they're held in these facilities until their immigration status is sorted out. It's a pretty complex and often stressful process for the people involved.
Yeah, so if you get detained or arrested by ICE or told to get into the paddy wagon to go to a detention center, have you been arrested and will that go on your record?
Well, it's a bit of a unique situation. If you're detained by ICE for an immigration issue, well, that's a really good question, and it's a bit of a nuanced answer. Being detained by ICE is technically different from being arrested for a criminal offense. It's more of a civil immigration detention rather than a criminal arrest. As said, it can still have serious consequences. It might not go on your criminal record in the same way as an arrest for a crime, but it can still affect your immigration record and your legal status. So it's definitely something to take seriously, and it's a good idea to get legal advice if you find yourself in that situation.
So, Kevin, what did you think about our show, and do you think this will be helpful to our audience?
Absolutely. I think the show covered some really important ground. We talked about staying safe, knowing your rights, and understanding how to handle these kinds of tough situations. So definitely think it'll be helpful for the audience. It's like giving them a toolkit of knowledge and preparation. Plus, we kept it practical and straightforward, which always helps. So yeah, I'd say it was a great show and hopefully a really valuable one for everyone listening.
All right, before we go, I just saw in the headlines today that President Trump is going to go ahead and invoke the Insurrection Act against Minnesota or in the sit town of Minneapolis. Can you tell us what is the Insurrection Act? Think, thinking.
Sure. In short, the
Here he goes again.
Sure. Basically, the Insurrection Act is a very old law that lets the president use the military within the United States to deal with civil unrest or rebellion. In this case, President Trump has said he might invoke it in Minneapolis because of the protests and incidents involving ICE. It's a pretty big deal because it's not something that happens often, and it stirred up a lot of debate about federal power and local control.
Could you go ahead and translate into Spanish for our Spanish speaking audience?
Claro, vamos a traducirlo. Básicamente, la ley de insurrección es una ley muy antigua que permite que un presidente use el ejército dentro de los Estados Unidos para lidiar con disturbios civiles o rebeliones. En este caso, el presidente Trump ha dicho que podría invocar la Minneapolis debido a las protestas e incidentes que involucran a ICE. Es algo bastante importante porque no es algo que sucede a menudo o ha generado mucho debate sobre el poder federal y el control local.
So we're coming into a situation in 2026 that president can take and have the National Guards federalized and take and use that as an ICE operation and have you detained and sent to centers to look for your if you're legal or not. That's National Guards. He can also use the Insurrection Act and have active duty military come in on top of the National Guard and arrest you and put you uh, in this situation. And then, of course, there's the regular ICE agents. So there's like three three agencies, right? You got ICE agents, you got the National Guard, and you got the active duty Army coming out after you in 2026. So if I was undocumented, I would be real leery or real concerned about going outside in today's American society. What do you think about that, Kevin?
Well, it's definitely understandable to feel that way. I mean, if you're hearing about all these layers of well, it definitely sounds like a scenario that could make anyone feel pretty concerned, especially if they're undocumented. When you got multiple agencies potentially involved, like ICE, the National Guard, and even active duty military under the Insurrection Act, it can create a really intense atmosphere. It's kind of like having layers of enforcement that could make people feel like they're constantly under watch or at risk. So, yeah, it's definitely a situation that could lead to a lot of anxiety in the undocumented community. And it really underscores why it's important for people to know their rights and have support systems in place. It's a complex and challenging environment, and being informed is one of the best ways to navigate it.
All right, so after looking at this show today, what should I do if I'm undocumented uh, citizen over here in the United States? If I'm undocumented, what should I be doing right now?
Well, if you're undocumented and feeling concerned, the best thing to do is to make sure you're as informed and prepared as possible. It's kind of like having a safety net of knowledge. You want to know your rights, like the fact that you don't have to open the door to ICE agents unless they have a proper warrant. You also want to have a plan in place, know who you call for legal help or support from your community. And it's really helpful to stay connected with local organizations that can offer guidance and resources. Basically, it's all about being as prepared as you can be so you can navigate the situation as safely as possible.
Can you translate that into Spanish before we go?
Por supuesto, vamos a traducirlo. Entonces, si eres indocumentado y estás preocupado, lo mejor que puedes hacer es estar lo más informado y preparado posible. Es como tener una red de seguridad de conocimiento. Quieres conocer tus derechos, como el hecho de que no tienes que abrir la puerta a los agentes de ICE, a menos que tengan una orden judicial adecuada. También querrás tener un plan, saber a quién llamar para obtener ayuda legal o apoyo a tu comunidad. Y es muy útil mantenerte conectado con organizaciones locales que puedan ofrecer orientación y recursos. Básicamente, se trata de estar lo más preparado posible para poder afrontar la situación de la forma más segura posible.
Hey, Kevin, do you have any phone numbers or any agencies that undocumented people can contact if they are arrested by the ICE agents?
Absolutely. One good resource is the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, or
Just thinking.
sure. So if you ever find yourself or someone you know detained by ICE, there are a few key resources you can contact. For example, there are rapid response networks in places like Los Angeles and East LA with phone numbers you can call for immediate legal help. There's also a national hotline run by Freedom for Immigrants that you can dial from inside detention. Plus, the ICE detention reporting and information line can help with locating someone or reporting issues. And of course, it's always a good idea to have a trusted immigration attorney's contact info on hand. So there are definitely resources out there to support you in those situations.
Can you translate that into Spanish, please?
Por supuesto, vamos a traducirlo. Entonces, si alguna vez te encuentras a ti mismo o a alguien que conoces detenido por ICE, hay algunos recursos clave a los que puedes comunicarte. Por ejemplo, existen redes de respuesta rápida en lugares como Los Ángeles y el SDLA, con números de teléfono a los que puedes llamar para obtener ayuda legal inmediata. También hay una línea de atención nacional dirigida por Freedom for Immigrants, a la que puedes llamar desde dentro de un centro de detención. Además de la información y reporte de detención de ICE, puede ayudar a localizar a alguien o a reportar problemas. Y por supuesto, siempre es una buena idea tener a mano el contacto de una búsqueda de inmigración de confianza. Así que definitivamente hay recursos disponibles para apoyarte en estas situaciones.
All right. And finally, I want you to tell my audience to subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and fill out the survey. Do it in Spanish and in English. Thank you.
Absolutely. So first in Spanish. Por supuesto, asegúrense de suscribirse al canal, hacer clic en el botón de me gusta y llenar la encuesta. And in English, of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and fill out the survey. Thank you.
All right, so this is the What's Up Show, and thank you for being here today. What's up? What's up? And this show was to show you what to do if you ever get shot by ICE agent or by law enforcement, what to do, how not to act in protests, how to protect yourself, what are the legal things that can help you out, what are agencies that can help you if you're ever detained. I hope you enjoyed the show, and thank you for being on. What's up? What's up? What's up?
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to be part of the show. I hope everyone found it really helpful. Absolutely. It's been a pleasure being part of the show. Hopefully, everyone's feeling a little more informed and prepared. And hey, keep looking out for yourselves and each other out there. Until next time, stay safe and stay informed. Thanks for tuning in.